Hey everyone, Tactics here, and in this video I'm going to be going over some simple Tormented routes for all 8 dungeons going into Season 2. If you're not 100% sure what Tormented is, I have a video over on my channel you can check out. It's probably linked in the description below as well. I would just avoid the Anima Power section, as that did see a bunch of tuning literally the day after I posted the video, but the rest of it is still 100% accurate. I'll be putting out some more advanced routes as well later on in the season, but that video is probably going to take a couple of weeks to kind of figure out the specifics on the affix and see final tuning, final positioning, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to be notified when that video goes up. Now, simple routes. What do I mean by simple? These routes are definitely not going to be the most optimal routes, so like higher key pusher groups, you're never going to see them doing these specific routes, but what I was aiming for these routes is something that was easy to execute and usable for players whose goal is something like Keystone Master. Whether you're in a coordinated group, whether you're a group full of pugs, or you're just a beginner getting started at running keys, I wanted these routes to be accessible and viable enough to get KSM, and to do that, I did take a few things into account. Things like skips and backtracking I tried to cut to a minimum, only keeping in things that are easy to execute or don't waste too much time. I also tried to keep pull size relatively small, though if you're comfortable, feel free to adjust some of the pulls here as you see fit. I'll leave that to your own discretion. In terms of the Tormented Lieutenants themselves, I tried to get them relatively quickly in all of these dungeons, again though keeping in mind things like skips and backtracking are being kept to a minimum. If you have access to something like Shroud, obviously very useful. You can get to the lieutenants very quickly, but I didn't want to assume that you had a rogue, so if you do, you can do that and adjust accordingly. We're also going to be killing all of the lieutenants in every single dungeon, so we don't need to worry about the final bosses having auras on them. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of top groups figuring out routes where you skip lieutenants, but trust me, that is 100% not necessary to do keys around the KSM level, and honestly it could just create hard walls for your group in certain dungeons if you have the wrong combo, and if you're not ready for it, so it could just make things very, very hard for you. There's also likely a lot of routes that will involve pulling lieutenants with a bunch of trash, also something I tried to avoid for the most part as it can be hard to execute for many different players. Now before getting into it, I did also want to give a small disclaimer. These routes, obviously it's coming out before the season is even out, so these routes are all based on PTR positioning of the lieutenant spawns, though this did remain quite static for the first few weeks leading up to the patch coming out, but if anything is super off, I'll probably just get rid of this video entirely so it's not confuse anybody. The one thing we're not 100% sure on is which lieutenant is in each spawn point. So the spawn points themselves seem to be remaining the same, but the lieutenants seem to be kind of, we're not sure if they're rotating or if it's just rebalancing or what it is, but they've been fluctuating a fair bit on the PTR, including just this past week. But luckily, again, for this route, it doesn't really matter that much because we're killing all of the lieutenants anyways, so that's fine for us. Alright, talked a lot. So be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let's get into our just first dungeon here, the other side. We've got this first double pull right off the top. Definitely recommend lusting this to get lust on cooldown just as quickly as possible. And then I actually have you do a little bit of a backtrack here. So you're going to go over to this left side towards a car, grab this lieutenant. You can pull him, no social aggro, kill him over here, and then you're actually going to run back to the other side and you're going to start an Ardenweald. Now I know a lot of people are worried about the Hakar situation. After the nerfs, I think he's a lot easier to deal with. He's no longer going to be a huge roadblock for groups. So I think you are perfectly fine leaving that boss till later now. And this lets you pick up a bunch of Tormented buffs very, very early on in the dungeon, as you'll see. So you get this one first, you move over here. You can pull this Tormented guy either alone or with this 2-pack, either works. And then you can either use the urn. If you pull this guy alone, you can grab all these guys together, drag them on top of the urn, or you just have this pack with the urn either way. If you don't have an urn, that's fine as well, doesn't matter. You go through the Ardenweald area, you've got just this one pull here with the stags and the guys in front, and then you have a third lieutenant. So there's your 3 buffs back to back to back very early on in the dungeon. Haven't even killed the boss yet. Very nice. Finish off Ardenweald here. There's a lot of room for interpretation here. These are just my recommended pulls. Avoiding this matriarch entirely, which means you do have to stop the screech on these hatchlings. So make sure you're doing that. But you can combine these pulls as you see fit here. Depends on how comfortable your tank is, really. We jump down the waterfall here for this specific route, grab these guys, that's the only matriarch you're fighting, so be careful there. And then you go right into Dealer, and you should be able to lust on this boss. It should be back up from your initial Bloodlust. From there, it's pretty linear. We're just going through, killing the spirit, Pulling this pack, you can separate it if you don't feel comfortable pulling this together. And you have your 4th lieutenant picking it up right there. Again, you can just pull it back to this front entrance. Don't worry about this drill just yet. Kill the lieutenant, get your powers, and then just go through Mechagon. Going through Mechagon. You may or may not have Bloodlust up for this boss. It should be up, but if it's not, I would just either, depending on the time limit, if it's very, very close, just kind of send it as soon as you get it. If you kill the boss and it's like just coming up, at that point you would probably want to hold it for Hakar. We're then going out here, you start clearing towards Hakar's wing, you got the spirit, you've already killed this tormented ad right at the beginning, right? So you just have this pack, you can use the urn here again, and this pack, you just have to wait for this Hexer Pat. Otherwise though, you can just pull these guys together, pull these guys under the urn. If there's no, if you don't have a Night Fae, which, I mean, it'd be weird if you didn't have a Night Fae, but if you don't, you can split this pack into 2 and just do half and half without the urn, and again, this pack as well. And then you go into a car, and you should always have Lust for Hakar. He's still a lot easier, but you'd still probably want Lust for him. It's probably more beneficial on Hakar than it is on Muzela. And then, that's it. You're done your trash percent as well, and you just go in and you fight Muzela there. That's it for the other side. Pretty straightforward. Again, only a minor thing of getting this tormented ad first and then going the other way to get 3 tormented ads before you even fight your first boss. Right, you've got 3 tormented ads before you're even 20% count in the dungeon. That's very, very good in terms of power usage and overall uptime. So that's a strategy I think I would recommend going with, and it's fairly W key, right? You're just kind of going forward with just this one thing at the beginning you're doing that's different. All right, Halls of Atonement. So, another one where your first pull you're going to be lusting. Again, some people add more than this to this specific pull just because you're lusting and dropping all CDs. That's up to you. This is a pretty safe pull initially, pulling all these guys together there. Then I would say you'd move upwards here. Again, most part is because this is an offensive power guy, and for the most part this has been a defensive power guy, so we're going to target getting this buff first. So just go through here, you kill the second pack afterwards. You have the Thrash pack, or the Shard pack rather, with the big Thrash. Note that can be LOS to either here or here. I would kind of recommend pulling him down to like this area, down here, just so you can LOS here. I can draw, you can like pull him down here, just because you can LOS right there. And you can LOS over here, but again, there's a ledge right there, and I have seen people jump off, so it is safer to LOS over here. And I would recommend bringing this Stoneborn, if you have a Venthyr, into this Shard pack. So you skip it initially, just hug this left area, grab these guys, and then when you go to pull the Shard pack, just grip this, or just pull this guy in. You can kill him, and then you have the Lieutenant right after. And then you can run over here this way. You can kill this pack here, get your second Lieutenant pretty quickly, and then you can go in to your next Shard pack. Again, I think you should pull this Stoneborn right here into this Shard pack. Ideally, you probably have a Stoneborn for every single Shard pack. That's kind of what this positioning is done for, because again, these Shard packs are the scariest part, or at least your healer, that Thrash. The range is larger now, so you probably aren't going to outrange it. You're probably going to either try to abuse LOS or whatever. So you'll probably want that extra damage for these packs. You can LOS right here, behind there. That's why I have these 4 guys getting pulled, just so you open up that LOS. You may want to delay pulling these 4 in, at least if you're a tank, because these guys do kind of slap tanks. So just be careful in the specific pull, but again, having that Stoneborn for these pulls is very, very beneficial. From there, just jump down, kill these 5. You can then kill this group as well, and then you're going to pull this Stoneborn into your last Shard and kill them. Then clear out the middle area. Then I clear out these guys before the boss, because you can actually, if you have a range, you can pull this Stoneborn down. So if you have that range, you can pull the Stoneborn down. You can also have someone grab this Stoneborn over here, and you just bring them both into the boss, and you can grab them both for this boss. So if you have a single Venthyr, if you're not aware, you can grab 2 at one time. Basically, you just have to wait for them both to be in range of you, and you just spam the extraction button to take over the Stoneborn, and they'll both get mind controlled if you just keep spamming it. So that's really, really good. For Halkias, you'll Lust again here. If you're worried about Echelon in particular, you could hold Lust for Echelon. Now, after you've done Shard, you have pretty much no trash left here, right? You're at 81% trash count after you're killing Shard. And so what I would definitely recommend is just invis-potting this trash. If you don't have a Shroud, just skipping it all. This trash is all kind of yikes. Very, very scary to pull. This is one of those few skips where I would 100% recommend just sending an invis-pot if you don't have a Shroud to get straight to Echelon and just go back-to-back bosses. Again, another reason why if you want to save Lust, you can Lust Echelon. Perfectly fine. 100% perfectly fine, so that's up to you. After Echelon, we do then have a Lieutenant right here you can pull out. You've got this one dog pack. You go in, you can pull another Lieutenant in this room, and then you can pull the 4-pack, and then it's just pretty straightforward. You're killing High Adjudicator. You can pull these Stoneborns into High Adjudicator, or if you're going to try and kill the mini-boss, you can pull these into the mini-boss room as well, right? You can just pull them both up, have the double mind control thing happen right here, walk through the mirror and just try and kill this guy. Otherwise, you can just kill him normally, not too difficult, and then you'll have Lust for Lord Chamberlain. But yeah, pretty straightforward for hulls, not too much has changed, just super minor things, but in general, still pretty simple to execute dungeon. Let's go to Mists, a dungeon that I can't really do routes too well for because, again, the maze is random. I am assuming you have a Night Fae here, just because the Night Fae skip, again, pretty common to have a Night Fae in literally every group. It'd be kind of weird if you didn't have a Night Fae. But yeah, so just this first pull, I don't recommend lusting here necessarily. If you want to combine these pulls, you could lust, but again, most people want to lust on this first boss to try and push him a little faster. If that's not going to net you any benefit, you're still just going to basically like, oh, we're still going to 2-phase, or if it moves a 3-phase to a 2-phase, very good. If it moves a 2-phase to a 1-phase, very good. If it doesn't really change much, the lust here is kind of just meh. So you can opt to lust, like double pull this and lust that. But in general, I would just kind of save lust for Ingra, I guess. You can pull these together, or you can pull them apart, depending on how you feel. And then this is just a skip that a bunch of different classes can do. So a Warlock can make a gate from, for like here, to skip this pack. Rogues can sap or just cloak you. We have Demon Hunters can imprison. We have Priests that can Mind Soothe. We have Monks that can paralyze and Ring of Peace. You have to do both. One doesn't work. You have Hunters and Mages that can run first and then wait for everyone to run, and then Feign and Invis to get out of it. So basically, like, half the classes in the game enable you to skip this pack, which is why I'm leaving this skip in there. Worst case, if you are missing all of those classes that could potentially help you, you could just Invispot this. But this is a super easy to execute skip, so I am leaving that in here. I do think skipping this is beneficial, and you just kind of have the 1-pack, you have the mushrooms, and you have this Tormentor here. So it is actually possible for you to kind of squeeze by, get your mushroom buff first, and then come back and do this Tormented ad, and then keep going from there. That's what I would recommend. You have these guys, another Tormented ad, and then you fight the boss. Again, lust here if you haven't lusted already. One more Tormented ad, and then we've got the maze. So this is just random. I just put in one potential maze. I think it ends you at 65, which is a pretty common ending percent for the maze. So I put this one in. You're just going to have to kind of play it by ear depending on what your final maze percent is. But then you have Dreamweaver, or Mistcaller, sorry, not Dreamweaver. At some point, if you lusted early, you'll be able to lust one of these packs in the maze, probably. If you lusted the boss, it's a little more touch and go. You may or may not get a Bloodlust in the maze. It all depends. But otherwise, you probably just want to rip this Bloodlust as soon as you get it. If you lusted on the boss. So just as soon as you get that Bloodlust up again, you just want to rip it, because you do kind of want it back up for Tredova. If you're blazing through this and you're like halfway through Mistcaller when that Lust comes up, at that point I would probably hold Lust, because you're probably going to get to Tredova fairly quickly. From there though, just jump down. You've got your last Tormented ad, kill him, and it's just a straight beeline. Again, this is your pulls here are going to depend on what your percent was, right? So there's a chance, if you had good percent, that you're done count after you kill these ads right here. There's a chance if you had bad percent, you need to make a pull or two, right? So it all depends. So you're just gonna have to play that by ear, but I would definitely recommend just kind of going in a straight line, and if you need to, pulling up here, or even up here afterwards if you need another pack. So completely depends on how your maze ended up, but in general, you can just straight line this area and you'll be in a fine spot, and you'll want to lust Tredova most likely. Next up, we do have Plaguefall. This is a dungeon that's changed a fair bit going into the patch. Again, the whole Plague Boar strategy is gone, but to be fair, for these kind of KSM keys, you weren't really using those Plague Bombers very much, so not too much has changed here. I do recommend, especially on Fortified Weeks, just lusting on this first pack here. That giant can be scary. You want to watch the Fungi Storms, and as these little guys die, you can, if you feel comfortable, kind of pull these next pack in, so you get more value from that Bloodlust. And from there, you just kind of go through, pull this next pack. There is a lieutenant right here, so I would kind of thread the needle, kill this lieutenant first, and then come back and do this pack just right after, because you'll have the anima power to make it a little bit easier. These slimes, you can cut this in half if you don't feel comfortable. Certain affixes, you'll want to cut this in half as well. Something like bursting could make this very scary if you pull it all. Something like bolstering also. So specifically for those affixes, you'll definitely want to cut it in half. But in general, if you don't have those two affixes, you can just pull this all together or cut it in half depending on how you're feeling. Doing the one Plague Belcher, that does mean you're going to have to stay on this half of the platform for Globgrog. Keep that in mind, but it's still perfectly fine to do that. And you've got Globgrog himself you deal with. On Tyrannical weeks, you may want to opt to lust on Globgrog, but at least for fortified weeks especially, I would definitely recommend lusting early here, because you'll get a lust up again later on. You may scuff a lust if you lust Globgrog here. From there, we're actually going to skip the large majority of this, but it's a very, very easy skip. Doesn't require invis pots or anything like that. I'll just go over it quickly after this, but pretty much you can use this unstable canister to help you deal with this pack. You can delay this Plague Rock if you're not feeling super comfortable immediately. Just kind of delay it with these Plague Borers over here. That's fine as well. Totally up to you. You can then pull this 3-pack, and then you kind of just skirt the edge up here. And you run around this way. You wait for this path to go past you, and you can just jump down and only grab these two guys. There is a lieutenant right here as well, so I would just say grab these two guys, stand on the lieutenant, deal with it there. If you're feeling wild, you can do some Plague Borer stuff, right? Drag them onto the lieutenant. Up to you. Again, this is a simple, easy to execute route. I'm not going to recommend that for this, but obviously you're probably going to see high-end groups do that. Then 2 tentacles only in the gauntlet, dealing with the mini-boss, and then clearing the trash here. You can then go up here. There is a Tormented ad up here you can do before the boss, so I would recommend that. Then going into the boss after that. Should have Lust again here. And then another kind of straight line thing. So you're doing 1 tentacle and 1 slime. You're doing the platform on the island here. You're doing these 2 guys with the Tormented ad, because again, these guys are going to be low health. They're not super dangerous, so super easy to deal with. Drag them right on top of the lieutenant. Perfectly fine. You have a stealth ambusher here. Just drag it over to the tentacle and the guy fighting here. Again, low health, pretty easy to deal with. Kill this stuff on the boss platform. Dealing with the 3rd boss there. Jumping down, and pretty straightforward. Grab these slimes. Get an extra buff if you have a Necrolord. Kill all these as you see fit. Pull as little or as many at a time as you want. And then you'll have Lust up again for whichever Margrave Shadama phase you choose to Lust on. Overall, if you weren't abusing Plague Borers, not too much has really changed for this dungeon. So yeah, not too much to talk about on that front. So pretty straightforward, just kind of running through the dungeon line. Just this little skip is the one main different thing I think players weren't using. A lot of them were just going through this way. So would definitely recommend just doing that skip, and that's about it for changes for this dungeon. So next up, Sanguine Depths. So another one, not too difficult to do. So you're basically just pulling these 2 together on top of the canister here. Get a canister buff. You can add a 3rd if you're feeling crazy again. Big groups will probably do all 3 of these packs together. For smaller groups though, not needed. Totally fine to do KSM without mega pulling like I mentioned earlier. So you can just do these on the canister. If you have Event here, of course. You do these 3. You can pull these 2 guys together, or you can combine this 2 as well, depends how you feel. And then you have a Tormented ad, which you can, again, just pull away from these guys, fight it over here. You can wait for this guy to pat around. He pats in a big circle here, so when he's like over here, you can all just sneak through this corner. No skipping of any sort necessary. Just do that. Pack. Crixus. Lust Crixus for sure. We're going in. And I would say pull these 2 oppressors in with these sprites. A little scary for your tank, just be aware of it. But basically just means you don't have a ton of kicks in this pack. Whereas like if you combine it with these guys, there's just an absolutely insane amount of kicks. So if you have an AoE silence, you can do that. But otherwise I would say combine these 2 with the sprites and then go into this room. Maybe grab this sentinel later in the pack, deal with that sentinel, and then walk over here, deal with the Tormented ad. Then you're just kind of moving straight again through the dungeon. You've got another canister here you can use, and I would say I would use it when this pack right here is low. Start it then, kill them, grab these guys, LOS them onto this canister, get a big buff, and then move through here. You can use that to deal with this pack here, the mini-boss, and even the Tormented ad. And then you're moving into this platform. I would just recommend staying down on this bottom half of the ring. You're going to be pretty over percent if you try and use these canisters without skips over here. And like I mentioned, they're not super necessary for KSM level keys, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. You can just clear this first pack. Now, this Tormented ad has been snappable on the PTR. He's actually down here, right there. But you can step right here, and you can target him, and you can hit him, and he'll walk up, and he'll eventually just snap up to you. At least that's what happened on PTR. May or may not be going live, but keep that in mind. So you can actually pull this guy up if you can hit him with a spell and get your 4th buff pretty early on in the dungeon. From there, just moving along this side, again, you can use the canisters. You can pull this pack directly onto like the canister over here. Pulls the pat, fight the gargoyle whenever you get him. Pulling these guys back again if you can onto the canister. Moving forward, dealing with the remnant, and then just dealing with the boss. Again, you'll probably want to lust this boss as well. These bosses are fairly scary in here even after the nerf, so just want to lust that boss to get him over with, and you can jump straight down. I believe the percent you want to be at, yeah, you want to be around 70% before jumping down. So around 70% is where you want to be. You can jump down and kill these guys here. If you haven't been able to pull this guy for whatever reason, snap, broke, don't have range, whatever, you can kill him now, then go into the boss, and then you're just W keying through the gauntlet. Nothing crazy here, just W keying through. There is a canister here for you to use if you're a Venthyr. You can LOS this blue pack and the Gargans as well onto that to get extra buffs. And then you're just lusting on all. So pretty straightforward ending to that dungeon there. Spires of Ascension is next. So first pull, I would double pull this. Some groups add the Goliath. In pug groups, I would be a little hesitant to add the extra kicks. You can just safely double pull this. There's an LOS spot back here. I can draw it in. You can just have your entire group just LOS over here. And just have one tank run up and pull this. And easy, Bloodlust, kill it all. Move forward, you can pull this guy onto this pack. Pretty straightforward. You have your first Tormented ad there. You then one more pack before the boss and the boss itself. Now, a lot of groups are going to go right here. Again, in pugs with coordinated, needing a lot of kicks going this way, I don't recommend going right. I would recommend going left in pug groups. So you would start out by going to this right pack here to get percent, and then you would go left, deal with these packs, and then jump use the angel to get across. Just kind of straight going through all these packs, If you have a Kieran, you can pick up that spear. I think it's over here actually. Yeah, pick up that spear, and then you can use it on this yellow pack, I would say. This is something you could Bloodlust too if you wanted to. That's totally up to you, I would say. Also, something that's possible is you can literally let the lust rip as soon as you get it, similar to Mists. So as soon as you have that second lust up, you can just send it whatever pack you're on, and that way you can squeeze in an extra lust. If you're not comfortable with that, you can just hold it and you can lust like on this boss guaranteed or on this pack guaranteed, just to make that a little bit safer. You've got the Lieutenant here, so definitely pull that before the boss and then go into the boss. And then from here, you're going Lieutenant, basically. So you're pulling this Lieutenant. Again, no social aggro, so you can pull him like down here and fight him. You can jump over the little fire thing here and run along the side to skip this pack. To skip this guy, same deal as in Mists. If anything that worked there, so Mind Tooth, Paralyze plus Ring of Peace, Sap, Cloak, obviously, if you have that. I think I said Mind Tooth already. There's Imprison works. Mage and Hunter can do their thing here as well. So lots of classes can help you get by this. Worst case, you can Invispot. You just end up over here. Pull that Tormented ad, fight him in this corner. Then you can either thread the needle this way or walk around this way to get around this pack here. And then you can drag this pack and LOS it over here. Just pretty much like mount up, run around so they don't murder you while you're trying to get to safety. Kill that pack over there. Then got Urfrian. You can deal with him. Head on up. I would recommend killing this angel first, Lachesis. He's the easiest to deal with. Then I would go Astronos, and then I would go Klodos, and use your spear and your Bloodlust on Klodos, especially on fortified weeks. This guy is super scary. You just want to kill him ASAP, just nuke him out of existence. And then you just have Davos. So yeah, again, the end part of this dungeon, pretty linear. Some little bit of skips here, but then as soon as you're up, right, you're just killing these guys. I'm not sure if the change on them was reverted or not. I know that they had some weird stuff going on with them. They were basically completely changed. I heard that it was partially reverted, but we'll have to see. But either way, Lachesis, Astronos, Klodos is always going to be the order you want to go, and you're always going to want to Spear plus Lust Klodos. So always do that. It'll make your life so much easier. And then we've got our second last dungeon, the Necrotic Wake. Alright, so we have this first pack here. Would probably lust this on Fortified Week and not lust this on Tyrannical Week. You can lust the boss instead. Pull this, send all cooldowns. You can grab this hammer here. That's what this hex is. It's a hammer. Same kind of CCs, so sap, imprison, those kind of things. Not a big deal if you can't access this hammer. It's really not the end of the world. It's perfectly fine. You can then pull this Tormented ad back. Again, no social aggro, so you can pull him back to here, fight him, then move forward. Spear here for this first boss. You've got the pack here. You've got the Kyrian orbs here if you can pick them up. So then you can just spear and Kyrian orbs this boss. You have all this room over here to use. So make sure you're making use of it. Try not to pull anything extra on top of the boss. Afterwards, just kind of skirt around the side, kill this pack, keep skirting around. Another Kyrian Golem here you can pick up. This looks like a big pull, but again, keep in mind, a lot of blight bags, so they don't really do too much. You can pull these guys together. I would CC the mage here if you can, the Brittlebone mage. If you have any corners CC like Shackle, anything like that, Blind, those kind of CCs, just so it doesn't have to worry about interrupts. Pull these guys together otherwise though, kill them. Pick up this orb for sure, probably your tank. It doesn't really matter. And then you kill this pack, just watch that cleave. Make sure you focus the Marauder for the shields. And then I would orb this pack here. You'll be able to kill it really quickly. You won't have to worry about interrupts because the orb does silence. So just this pack will just kind of melt. You've got a hammer and a spear here, so make sure those get picked up. You've got to deal with these Marauders like normal. Wouldn't worry about the extra Kyrian orbs here. Really not too big a deal, and we're focusing on not doing skips again, so not too big a deal. Move forward here. You can drag this Tormented ad out. Fight the Tormented ad over here. Perfectly fine. And then you can pull these guys together or separate as you see fit. Can be a little bit scary because of the bone cover and the sorcerer casts. It depends on how your group is feeling. Do this together or separate. Doesn't really matter. You can pull these guys together. There's a hammer here and a spear here. Again, make sure there's a picked up. Make sure the same person doesn't pick up two of the same weapon type though, because then you just kind of lose that weapon. Jump over this thing over here and fight this last pack. Again, double CCing the mages if you can. If you can only CC one, I would CC the far one and drag the Necromancer on top of the other one. But just to deal with interrupts a little bit better. And then you move up here. There's a Tormented ad with a Marth. And what I would actually recommend is spearing them both. So you line up the spear so it goes through both of them. This Tormented ad just gets absolutely nuked. And then you're able to kill a Marth fairly quickly here. You can also pick up the orb as well. And this is also a fight you can Bloodlust. So Bloodlust this as well. Kill that Tormented ad as quickly as possible. It should die very, very quickly with the spear. And then make your way in and continue killing a Marth. Upstairs, Tormented ad right away. Just pull that guy. And then I would say for the orb, I would use it on this padding pack here. And I would do it probably with another pack if I could. So like maybe if this pack is on this side or this side, I would use the orb there. Just helps a lot. You can double pull easily with this orb. Just makes one of these pulls with the Stitchworks very, very clean. So I would definitely recommend that. Then you can just kind of pull this room however you want to. The order does not matter at all here because Prideful is gone. And at this point, you're just W keying the dungeon again, right? So you're just killing all the ads in this room, killing the assistants, killing all the dudes that spawn, killing the boss. I would use your final spear on this guy because you're able to kind of 1/2 phase him with the spear or the orb. Either works if you want to do that. So you can kill him fairly quickly without investing Bloodlust if you so choose, and just make sure you're lining up those creation hooks and you're perfectly fine. And then you just move upstairs. You'll have Bloodlust for this guy, and you'll have your hammers, which you can use to break the shields on this guy as well. And we've got one more dungeon left, Theater of Pain. This one is also going to be pretty straightforward. I think it might be a little bit different in terms of routing, but we'll see. Pretty much pull this first pack. Just want to make sure that Bloodhorn doesn't enrage. You can drop CDs here if you want. Then you go through boss, Bloodlust this for sure. Moving downwards, you have a Tormented ad right there, right as you come down. And then I would move up into the Necromancer wing actually. So I would kill 2 packs at a time, 2 packs at a time. Tormented ad, which you can pull back up here. Kill that second Tormented ad. Move along, Portal Guardian, go right here. Kill these 2. kill these 3, go right again, kill these 3, kill these 3, boss, which you can Bloodlust again, go down, then I believe I send you into Zav's Wing, where you've got these 3 right here, and then you'll pull the Tormented ad to you, so you can do that 3rd Tormented ad, and then you've got whichever mini-boss you got, this pack here, which is a bit scary, so just be aware of it. Make sure that Captain gets interrupted and snooped down, whichever mini-boss you got, and then Zav. I don't think you're going to have Bloodlust at this point. It's possible, and if you do, I would say just kind of let it rip. But also what is possible after that, if you get Bloodlust near the end or mid of Zav, you can hold it and lust this pull right here. You can double pull this if you so choose. Lust that would make it a fair bit easier. Otherwise though, just kind of send it when you get it in this wing, and then pull these one at a time. And then you're moving through here, Butcher Pack, you can pull this Tormented ad out, kill it, and then you can sneak by when he's on one side of his path, right? So you can either, if he's coming towards you this way, you can run this way and all the way around. If he's running away from you, you can just follow in here and sneak in around this corner and go downstairs. Either way though, you don't want to fight this gas bag, but you don't need any skip abilities to get past him, so you can just walk right by. Down here, linear, just going through in a straight line, killing the boss, and then you go back up to Mordretha, last boss. You got Lust for that as well. But there we have it, pretty much. Simple, easy to execute, tormented routes for all 8 Shadowlands dungeons. As always, if you guys learned something, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to be notified when I post more Warcraft content like it. Like I mentioned earlier, the advanced routes will probably be out in the next couple weeks, so be on the lookout for that. I'll also be posting high-key walkthroughs and commentary videos for all 8 dungeons in Season 2 from a tank POV, again, likely coming in the next few weeks. If you have any questions at all regarding this video, feel free to leave a comment below, or you can come check me out on my Twitch channel over at Tactics, and I will do my best to answer. That's all for now though. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.